When 18-year-old Conrad Roy took his own life 5 years ago this month, his death led to a prosecution that captured national attention. As you likely know, Michelle Carter was ultimately convicted of involuntary manslaughter for encouraging Roy to kill himself through texts and phone calls when he was having second thoughts. Prosecutors argued that those communications amounted to her being present on the scene, and judges at every step of the state's judicial system agreed.
She indicates that she can hear him coughing, and she can hear the loud noise of the motor. This court finds that instructing Mr. Roy to get back in the truck constituted wanton and reckless conduct by Ms. Carter.
She's now serving a 15-month jail sentence while her attorneys appeal the case to the U.S. Supreme Court, arguing Carter's words were protected speech under the First Amendment. So there could still be another chapter in this matter, but some argue the law is part of the problem. More than 40 other states have laws that make assisting or encouraging suicide illegal, but Massachusetts is one of a handful of exceptions. Now, Conrad Roy's mother is working to change that, with a new bill named for her son. Conrad's Law would make it illegal in most cases to coerce, encourage, or give someone the tools to commit suicide. Lynn Roy joins me now. Thanks for being here. It's good to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
And along with one of the bill's sponsors, that would be State Senator Finegold. Senator, thank you for being here. If I can start with you, 5 years, as I said, since Conrad's death. Michelle Carter convicted, involuntary manslaughter, doing jail time. Why did you decide that you needed to do more in your son's name?
Well, I thought about it for a while, but I didn't know where the case was going to turn up. And I really wanted to do this in honor of him, so another family doesn't have to go through what I've been through.
What would this bill do, Senator? Simpler the better, if you would.
Basically, it would stop people from coercing others who have a mindset that they're going to commit suicide. It would put a crime on if someone coerces someone else to commit suicide.
But that person who ends up committing suicide would have to have, I don't know what the term of art is, suicidal tendencies.
Correct.
And the person who's being accused would have to know.
That's
so
correct.
As grotesque as, I don't know, cyberbullying is, for example, the typical punk who's doing cyberbullying, if they just do it, it's horrible, but it would not be a crime under your statute.
If I said to you, Jim, go jump off a bridge, only if I know that you're suicidal would it be a crime.
And doctors assisted a suicide, not with a specific exemption. How do you respond to concerns of civil liberties people? I've had some here who have, I think, shown genuine sympathy for what the Roy family has dealt with, but they don't like the law, and frankly, they didn't like the law under which Carter was convicted, at least how it was applied to
Jim,
those facts.
You can't walk in this room and scream fire. You also can't file fake police reports. So there are limits to free speech, and this would be one of them.
You know, there have been people who've sat in this chair who have had the courage to do what you do, whether people agree with you or disagree with you at home. Ron Bersani, whose granddaughter was killed by a drunk driver, fought as a citizen activist for a drunk driving bill that became law. The Levitans were here. Their daughter was killed, and they lobbied for a hands-free law. But to do this, you have to relive all of the circumstances of your son's death. You have to listen to the judge say what he just said a minute ago. Did you balance the pain with the benefit? And
the benefit outweighs the pain.
And how did you decide something?
Because it's in my heart. It's my son. I'm doing this for him. I'm doing this for other people. I know him more than anyone, and he always wanted to help. And if he can help and save someone else, that's what he would have wanted.
Your kids are pretty much the same age you told me that he was at the time. Are they supportive of this?
Absolutely.
They are.
Yeah, they're very proud.
If this had been law, Senator, at the time, I know it's hard to do hypotheticals, if this had been law at the time that all this has happened, how would this have been different, or would it have been
I think it would have been a lot different. I think this would have been a plea bargain. I think that we wouldn't have had as many appeals as we had, and I don't think it would have got the national attention that it did.
Because the whole notion was, is it involuntary manslaughter too vague or too broad to include this kind of act?
And to your point, when you started, why are we only one of 10 states that don't have anything like this on the law? 40 other states realize that there needs to be something like this.
How do you explain that we're late to the fair?
I think that's a good question. I don't know why we're there, but the point is we have to solve this. And as a father of teenagers, I see them having cell phones all the time, and it's a real problem out there with teenage bullying.
You know, earlier this year, Lynn, the lawyer Daniel Marks for Michelle Carter was here, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to play a little bit of what he had to say
Sure.
about the case. His name is Daniel Marks. Here he is.
Michelle Carter didn't kill Conrad Roy. You know, he made a tragic choice to end his own life. It wasn't the first time he had tried to commit suicide, but she didn't cause him to do that. She didn't force him to do that, and she didn't make that tragic choice for him. That event happened in the context of a multi-year relationship that was incredibly complicated between two troubled young people, both struggling with their own mental health challenges, and it resulted in a suicide. But it was not something that Michelle Carter caused.
You know, I'm not interested in talking about the part about his arguing the case, because obviously courts have decided so far he was wrong and the prosecutor's right. But he says at the end, near the end, it was incredibly complicated between two troubled young people, both struggling with their own mental health challenges, which, as an outsider, appears to me to be true. Do you have any sympathy or feelings at all for Carter and what she's gone through in her life, or do you just see her as the person who caused your son's death?
Of course, I have a conscience. Of course, I said from the beginning, I feel for her family very much.
Would you ever contemplate, I mean, she's obviously in jail now, she was transferred the other day according to the newspaper, but still in Bristol. Would you ever have interest in talking to her? Would you want to talk to her? Or?
Not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Jim, I just want to add that, you know, we've had other cases, Anna Insuline and Lowell.
Yeah, please tell, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
And there are other cases like this going on. And
a cyberbullying victim, correct? 16 years old, am I right about that? Yeah.
Yes, so there needs to be a message sent that for young people, there's acceptable behavior and there's unacceptable behavior.
What would you say are the realistic odds of this becoming, I mean, my view always is when there's an affected person who cares deeply about something, it changes the equation
I think
completely.
having a champion like Lynn, willing to tell her story, is incredibly helpful. And the fact that we're only one of 10 states that don't have this speaks volumes. And this is something that both sides of the aisles can agree upon, because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody was happy with the whole court case and all the things that happened.
So you honestly optimistic, or you just, I don't mean to be dishonest, are you honestly optimistic, or are you just hopeful? That
no, I really am, because I don't see a lot of people against the bill. And I feel the fact that there were only one of 10 states that don't have this makes it make sense that we should have this.
Lynn, if we can spend the last minute, I've said this to many parents who have sat there who have suffered the kind of thing you suffered through. The sad part for people like me is we only know how your son died. We don't know how your son lived, what kind of person he was. Can you spend a minute and tell us about Conrad?
Absolutely. He was warm, compassionate. He would have done anything for anyone. He helped so many people. I've gotten messages after he passed how much they helped him.
You mean about stories about what Conrad did for other people?
Yeah, there was one girl he was in the hospital with, and she messaged me, and she said that she would not be alive if it wasn't for him.
Oh my goodness.
So, that's, yeah, I cried, and I was very happy, and I was very proud of him, because that's who he is.
My guess is, not knowing him, he'd be pretty proud of you, too. So thank you for spending some time. I know it's hard to talk about. Senator, good to see you.
Jim.
Lynn Roy, thank you. I appreciate your time.